Welcome to the Rachele and Cassandra show. Before we begin, our disclaimer. Sometimes these girls sound kind of like attorneys and financial advisors, but they are not.
Okay, we are ready. We're past ready. Geez, I don't know how to start now that we've got Dominic's little intro disclaimer. But hi, everybody. I should start with why we're doing this because I always want to talk about why we're doing this. Do you want to read the thing?
Oh, yes.
No. Okay.
We're here to add value and show you what it really takes to succeed. Or if you're a private individual, what it really takes to do this yourself. If you choose to do so, we don't make any money looking to elevate our industry.
That's true. Okay. So what she just read you is some notes that I made in a document to remind myself to say these things at the beginning of every episode. But
she's much more eloquent, and I was reading her I was reading your internal cliff notes and really struggling because I thought she wanted them typed. But what she really wanted to do, and I was failing, but what she really wanted to do is say it in a cohesive manner, and those are just reminder words for her. So
yeah,
say it. Yeah.
Well, you already said it. We're just here to share the wealth.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah. No, it did. Well, whether or not it makes sense is subjective. It made sense to me. That's right. But yeah, our hope is just to give you some nugget, and at least one in every episode that you can take out into your real life and do stuff with, right?
Yeah.
It's taken us a lot of years
in the industry. Compile. It's absolute free sharing of information that we found helpful over years of doing the things.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful to the professionals that were here when I got here that shared openly with me that I want to do the same thing, because there are other professionals in the industry who are like, figure it out. And they have a very scarcity mindset that they don't want to help others succeed. And that's just not how I roll. So today we're here to talk about the Mafia.
Trying to pull people up the ladder. Right.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So that was a wonderful transition. I'm sorry I talked over it. Today we're going to talk about what?
The Mafia.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
After all of this talk about free sharing, and I have a dictionary definition of Mafia,
Capisce?
Which is interesting. Capisce. I'm going to just read it and then we'll go from there. So the Mafia is an organized international body of criminals operating originally in Sicily and now especially in Italy and the US, and having a complex and ruthless behavioral code. Or any organized group using extortion and other criminal methods. A closed group of people in a particular field having a controlling influence.
That sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. And I didn't know when I started. I was years deep before I realized how much of a pay-to-play industry this is.
We talked about the award ceremonies, and the awards aren't necessarily always correct because you can pay for an award.
Are you seeing in your feeds and in your closed rooms all the awards cropping up all of a sudden?
I made nominated for club.
I was in the top 1,500 realtors across the country.
Right.
Outrageously large number, right?
I was in the top 10,000 in my county.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, I have to get this out of the way just for accountability. 2 or 3 episodes ago, I told you that I thought I did like 60 deals a year. Fucking bullshit. Year to date, as of the end of last month, as of the end of October, I had closed 34. So I have an incredibly inflated sense of my own performance. And that's what happens when you don't track your numbers, people. You think they're different, way wildly different than they are.
Right.
I probably have 8 more closings, maybe 10 by the end of the year. So 40.
Today's the 28th. Oh, between then and now. And I'm like, yeah, how the fuck are you here? You got 10 closings between. Everybody's closed Friday.
Adding in November and December. And the fact that I don't even know that number is very telling. So,
I spreadsheet all of that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start measuring my stuff. Not to derail the conversation. We're talking about the pay-to-play nature of this industry. And I have a lovely story about how I even uncovered it. And I can't even remember why I was doing it. but I had to, why did I have to do this? Basically, the way it works in Michigan is the state gives me a real estate license, and I am free to practice real estate anywhere in the state of Michigan, and it's legal as long as my license is held by a brokerage. However, all of the listing data is in one resource called the MLS, and there are multiple MLSs across the state. But if I'm doing business in Southeast Michigan and you want to sell your house and you want to put it on the MLS, I can't do that unless I'm a member of that MLS, and you can't have access to the MLS unless you join one of the associations that makes up that MLS. Oh, by the way, if you want to join that association, you have to pay to be a member of the Michigan Association of Realtors, which is already part of National Association of Realtors. So you have to pay for that membership too. Like, you can't access anything unless you become a realtor. And realtor, which I didn't know this before I got involved in this industry, is a special kind of agent that presumably holds themselves to a higher standard and operates inside of a code of ethics. But it might actually be that that is a pay-to-play mafia-style scenario where you can't have access to the tools to do your job unless you pay for access to the tools to do your job by joining these clubs that cost money.
So I could get a license, but then I have to find a broker to hold my license, and I can't actually look at the homes or list a home in the MLS unless I, again, go deeper and pay for another layer of membership somewhere else.
It's all baked into, yes, basically. And you could. So let's imagine a scenario where I have a broker's license, Cassandra. I'll hold your license, and we'll be the agency, and you'll have the agents, but we won't be realtors. So now you can start making your own list of properties for sale and advertising them somehow. If you want to access a property, though, let's say you're helping a buyer buy a home and it's advertised on the MLS, and our MLS is tied to, I'm Greater Metropolitan Association of Realtors. So I'm a member of GMAR. That's what it's called. GMAR helps make up RealComp. So GMAR has decided that all of the listings in our area, for the safety of our sellers and for tracking purposes, will use electronic lock boxes. And this is something we really do. So we use something called Sentry Lock. So Cassandra is a non-member agent, even though, say, she lives right down the road from me in Livingston County. She's not a GMAR member, but she's licensed to practice in Michigan. She wants to show one of my listings. She doesn't have access to the Sentry Lock because she doesn't have a membership in the association that membership includes the Sentry Lock. So then, to show that property, she can call me and ask for a one-day code, which...
Am I likely to get that?
Yeah, well, so there's a parallel conversation here. I, as an agent, don't issue one-day codes. I've made it a matter of practice to refer you to calling showing time, because showing time can take the time to verify your license. So by the fact that you're not a member means that I don't know if you're a licensee. I don't know if you have an active real estate license. Maybe you could be some fucking ding-dong who saw a sign and is calling me saying you're an agent and you want to show the house. So am I giving you a code? Fuck no.
What if I showed you I have my license? Because I can look up any realtor's license, or it's public knowledge.
So that's what I do if I'm going to give you a code. But I have found, since I'm not in front of a computer all day, I think people have this delusion that realtors sit in front of a computer all day and you get mad that we don't email you. That's what she does. So I'm out in the wild. I'm meeting with clients, 3-hour appointments, showing houses back to back to back. I don't fucking have time to go look up on the Lara website your license. And it's not even that system could use some refinement as well. If you go look you go look up me, you're going to see an expired license because I get issued a new license number when I become a broker. Oh, and by the way, they reissued all new different coded broker license numbers. So depending on what information you have, you may or may not get an accurate representation of my active licensee status, but that's a different problem in the industry. I don't have time to go verify your license. And so if you're not a member and you don't have access to SentryLock, part of me says in my brain and my gut, why don't you have access to the tools to do your job, ding dong, which is shitty of me, but it's a real thing that I think. So I point you to Showing Time, and you can call them on their 1-800 number, and they can go look up whether or not you have an active license. And if you do, then they can issue you a 1-day code. So let's imagine that sounds just fine for one house. Now you're Cassandra, the agent who's not a realtor, and you've got 8 showings to do in one day for one client. First, you got to put them in order. Then you got to figure out your drive time. Then you got to call every single fucking agent to get a code, and some of them aren't going to get back to you for a day or two. Your job just got astronomically harder. Like, it's exponentially more difficult than the member agent who goes into the MLS, grabs all 7 properties, puts them in a map tool. It organizes them. I choose my times and send all the requests at once, and they start popping as approved or declined. I can do it in 15 or 20 minutes where you've got possible no callback in days.
So
the only reason you can call RealComp to get a 1-day code is because that's the way I run my business. Other agents don't do that. Some agents don't even use the SentryLock or Showing Assistant tools, and them you have to call anyway.
Okay, so the associations that you're forced to join force you to use tools that you then become so used to using, it annoys you when other people in the profession don't use them because now they haven't bent over. They're not one of you. And they're in turn, like, you might be able to do it, but I'm not fucking making it easy on you because I already did all the shit. They're not one of yous guys.
Absolutely. And it goes so far as to, there are, is this Stockholm Syndrome? Is that what we're talking about here? Abuse?
I don't think so.
And hostile victims having positive feelings toward an abuser or captor. Are you sure?
Yeah. The what's that girl?
Not similar?
The heiress. Patty Hearst.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm forced to use these tools, and I'm to the point now that I'm so reliant on the tools that I look down my nose at people who aren't using them. It's maybe not Stockholm Syndrome. Maybe it's a cousin diagnosis. But what I was going to say is, so I have RealComp. There's also the Greater Lansing MLS, and they use different.
Because there's more than one MLS.
Yes. So they use different tools over there. So a Lansing area realtor who wants to show a Livingston County property is going to run into a lot of those same problems that a non-realtor licensee is going to run into, simply because they're trying to sell a house outside of their home market.
I can't even with how dumb that is.
I know
that the MLSs aren't, like, you don't have access to them statewide.
It's literally a circling of the wagons and protectionism.
Oh, I know.
Because that's the way we do it here. And
you sell houses in your neighborhood and stick there.
And stay there. Is it redlining for professionals?
Probably to a degree. But it's done under the guise of expert and being super hyper local, and you just don't know. You can't possibly know a market anywhere but your, county.
Yeah. The data will always get you 80% there. It's access to the data that can prevent me from doing my job in a different market.
Sure. Well, I don't have something quite as disgusting as yours. You guys really do. You're forced to join NAR, which lobbies on your behalf and frankly we won't even get into that. You can get into that.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to talk about NAR, you also have to say how hard they fight for property owner rights. And they do. Like, if there are communities that are trying to stop people from Airbnb-ing their property. Well, as an advocate for property owner rights, I feel like you should be able to rent out your fucking property, even if your neighbors don't like that you're doing it. And NAR fights for those rights too. But I feel like you got to, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid,
it wasn't
man.
all bad. Yeah, right. Okay, Stockholm Syndrome.
I know. But the amount of stuff that you have to pay for in order to do the job effectively and competitively was surprising to me when I was a new agent, because nobody told me that I was going to have to pay $600 a year for this and $50 or 50 some dollars a month for that, and plus all the costs of running a business. And those are not astronomical sums, but when you're broke and new, they are.
Yeah, I have nobody told me that my pay to play, like, so I have a license. I have to pay the state for my license. I have to pay for continuing education. I have to pay to renew my license. I have to pay for my bond because you have to be bonded. Shit, I got to double check my bond. I think I have to increase my bond. Sorry, it's like
make myself. Is that based on production? Because
it is actually.
Yes. Parallel is the E&O insurance, and that's based on my production. Yeah. But
yeah, so my bond, I think I have to check my bond, but there's all these things that I have to pay for, and it kind of bothers me. So I have a very similar, people who work for banks, they don't have to have a fucking lick of education. They don't have to have a license. They don't have to know anything. They literally, and can I tell you, like, I'm this close to leaving my credit union. They don't have to be licensed, right? Because they're federally insured, right? So they don't have to, they freaking broker all their shit to Quicken. And I know a loan officer who works there who was like, all the stuff we're building, we basically stopped being a credit union years ago. We're just a giant mortgage company. That's where the bulk of their income's coming from. And it wasn't just him. I know people who work for 3 or 4 other credit unions. This is just in my little town. Like, that's where they're putting the majority of their focus. And they're not even underwriting. They're not even underwriting the loans, right? Like, they're brokering them out, which is what I do.
A credit union will conservatively underwrite their own mortgages. Like, they're more conservative, but more flexible because it's their money. They're not selling you to someone on the back end.
And he said they still do some of that, but that's perhaps 5% of the mortgages they do. And it's exceedingly rare.
How do you find out so they basically they use their credit union shell to build a different business underneath it.
Absolutely.
Huh. That's disappointing.
Go ask your credit union. Yeah. If you're able to have a real conversation with them, like, hey, I'm a realtor. Do you actually, where are you sending these? Are you underwriting them in-house? That kind of stuff. So
MSU Federal Credit Union, I think, has an in-house, used to have an in-house lending arm, and then Lake Trust uses Mortgage Center. They send everything to something called Mortgage Center, which I don't know what that is, but I think a lot of credit unions use that entity to do their mortgage processing. Is that even the right language? Mortgage process, mortgage underwrite, mortgage placement?
Basically, they're pushing it out. So they're not doing it in-house, which is the credit union. I can't even tell you how many times I use this, the Bailey Brothers Building and Loan. Like, he's a good guy. He pays his bills. His money's been here. He's never bounced a check. We can loan him the money, right? That kind of thing. Like, which is the story I get from people a lot on stuff. Like, I'm a good person, and it just was, and I work. I just don't show what I make. And like, okay, it's not 1920. It's got to show somewhere. But yeah, so it bothers me that I play by the rules, the Mafia rules of me getting licensed in all of my education that I have to have, in addition to seeking more education just so I'm good at my job. We won't even go into that, but there are people who rely on the name of a bank or a credit union and the trust that's been built, who have no fucking education, who aren't aware of some of the rules and don't have to pay by the same rules. It's very similar to the non-realtor, and you're like, oh, okay, why the hell why do I have to do this? And you don't, we do the exact same job.
You know what it seems like? The bank loan, are they even called loan officers, loan originators? The bank employee who's the face of your mortgage is more like me as a sales rep working for Verizon selling you a BlackBerry than you, the loan officer, actually placing a loan with a right product with a right client.
Right. Finding the correct thing. Yeah. And working through the puzzle that is unique to each person. So anyway,
I'm making a list, checking it twice. No, it's Christmas time.
I was going to say naughty and nice, but and I also didn't know the pay to play. So as a loan originator, I did not know how, because I still get propositioned and I have my response down really pat. I didn't know that in order to get business, I was expected to pay for marketing for realtors.
Yeah.
And what an opportunity. The propositions now are like, I'm going off on my own. I've never sent you a deal.
You talked about this, that one agent who was like, yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to, co-market with me on Zillow? I could get this zip code and, we could really build a team here. Oh, do I want to throw money at somebody who I have no real relationship
Let's talk
with?
about
I don't know if I have the juju with you.
In-house lenders paying for office space at a brokerage. Is that a pay-to-play scenario, do you think? Or I don't know, the title we've talked about this, like some
Keller
of the
Mortgage
self-serving
inside Keller Williams,
double dipping,
the kickback that goes there.
Mm-hmm. We have plenty of brokerages. We have plenty of local brokerages that have in-house lending. That is a totally different company. Keller Williams and Keller Mortgage is just so obviously that. But
we
what
have
about
Jayquay with Summit Mortgage? So one's inside the building as the other, and there's a title company that has a seat in there too.
And newly minted agents don't know. They really think, oh, this is the loan officer we have to use. Oh, this is the title company we have to use. The reality is you can use whoever you want.
Yeah.
But that fits with the Mafia theme of this conversation. And so the people that I have to pay to do business are my broker. And that includes, some fees that even if I just was my own broker, I'd still have to pay for errors and omissions insurance. And, that's probably it. But so I pay my brokerage.
Well, that's probably it.
I pay the state for my license and keeping it current. I may or may not pay for education. Sometimes I get it included in my association, which I definitely pay for. But sometimes I opt to go off grid and pay for separate education that I find valuable.
Did you know that
MLS membership access?
Sometimes your education, they are cracking down because as a lender,
you could do my education.
Sponsor classes that count towards realtors' continuing education credits.
Sneaky backdoor to influence.
Right, like I'll give you 2 hours of credit if you just come and sit to my presentation, and it'll go towards your education. It's actually illegal. You are supposed to pay for your education, and they're really cracking down on lenders providing the free things.
Yeah, like a free class on RD loans, and guess who's the top RD loan producer in the state? Cassandra,
guess
something.
Yes, exactly.
Makes all kinds of feel-good scenarios. I used to do free first-time home buyer education. Same fucking strategy, right? Like, come listen to me, talk to you, and you'll see me as the expert, and then you'll hire me. Nobody actually hired me, which maybe my presentation was no good. I know. I probably shouldn't have said that. It makes me look bad. But
I've done classes on VA mortgages, not for credits or Con Ed or anything like that, but just to educate. And I have gotten business out of it. That wasn't the goal. That's always nice. But
yeah, I did a Mishta class actually. Did I ever tell you about that?
You did not. I'd send people to somebody else who could do Mishta all the time.
It's the classes that you have to do in order to qualify for certain grants and stuff?
Yeah.
I did that. Class just as a give back, right? And I did it one time and it was, anyway, this is not what we're on topic about today. I have to pay for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I didn't know I had to pay for on top of the cost of doing business. This is not a complaint. It's just I didn't know that the doors that I need open in order to excel on behalf of my clients were lubricated by money. Did not know.
Right. And there were things I didn't know. I was like, okay, I have my license. Great. Well, you have to continue to hold your license. Okay. Oh, you
That's
have to
the state.
We're in an industry where you have to continue to get education for this license, which is fine because it's nice to stay abreast on things. However, not everybody who does what I do has to do that, which is
different standards for the different guy in a different chair.
And because of lobbyists, because of a whole separate mafia that has lobbied on their behalf, because of the bank lobby mafia, right? We could talk about new home builder mafia mentality with the National Association of Home Builders and their in-house lenders and what they do to realtors and
and to
that's
clients.
A whole separate mafia.
Can we just that might be worth circling back to talk about how differently home builders can operate outside of their fiduciary obligation. I can have a real estate license and a builder license.
Puppeteering shit.
And steering, all of it, all the bad things. So I'm just looking for parallels in my list that I wrote. For me, it's broker, state, association, education, MLS. You have state, education. What else? Do you have to pay a broker? Do you have to pay someone your bond? I don't have that. What else?
To be bonded. I think that's it.
Who provides the tools? You work for a company or somebody. I don't know if it's a holding of your license, but you work for a company, right?
She sponsors my license. I don't pay her to do that.
You don't pay her to do that.
No, absolutely not. But she takes part of, there's a fiduciary arrangement where she, I make this much on the loan, but, this is the percent that she takes, but she covers, right? Just like, but I'm a W-2 employee. I mean, I'm commissioned, but I'm W-2'd. So there's,
so she gets paid and then she pays you. She gets paid and then pays you, same as my broker, but you're an employee who gets commissioned and I am not an employee. I'm an independent contractor, but I must work according to the rules of my sponsoring broker. So doesn't that sound like talking out of both sides of my mouth? But I don't have to work any hours if I don't want to. So it's a weird bastardized arrangement.
I only make what closes. I could work and never close a loan. She wouldn't have to pay me anything. Well, perhaps she's supposed to pay me minimum wage, right? Like a draw or something. I'm not quite sure on the rules there, but
well, if you were an underperformer, we have
to pay for software in order to build out the loan, and there's also storage, right? Because you have to store files for 3 years, all of the documents. So there's a lot of cost to file storage in addition to the processing software. And then I have marketing software to follow up with people on, right? And
you should probably charge a document storage fee.
Seriously.
Compliance fees.
My favorite is a courier fee when nobody's running anywhere from a title company.
You still see that?
Oh, I saw one the other day. I saw a courier fee, a remote notary fee, and a closing fee. And I was like,
really?
What?
Who's currying?
I don't know. It's like there's somebody on a fucking bike riding around the block. Done. Charge them. That's what I think. I always think of like a courier in New York with like a tube.
With a bike.
Strapped across their bike. Yeah.
Oh, for me, it's a leather satchel, but it's the same guy. I promise you it's the same guy.
The gym satchel or the tube with, important architecture papers is what I think of for courier fee. But
that's
it's
funny.
Extortion by another name. It's mafia, title company mafia stuff.
So what is the only thing that I have that you don't is the MLS, and that is you can only knock on that door if you have the association key. Like you can't get to the MLS.
Well, I can't get to the MLS. I used to be able to at least see the MLS listings, but they put it behind a wall now.
Yeah. Well, what do you have to, do you have a similar thing that you pay for? We both have the state to pay. We both have education to pay. We both have, I have a broker, you have a sponsor, you have bond, I have,
no,
but that's covered by my broker. State education bond sponsor, state education broker association. So what's left is the MLS.
Yeah. So that's the weird part is your stuff is held hostage by requiring membership to access it. As a mortgage broker, I have people beating down my door to look at rates and their programs and their products because they want me to send them loans. Like, I don't understand why you have to pay for access to the MLS, because isn't the goal to sell the house and get as many eyes on it as possible, which, probably leads us into a Zillow conversation or
I was just going to say exactly that. Yes. It leads us to a Zillow and third party and monetizing. I mean,
yeah. And that's why I don't have to pay to go see rate sheets from, I could literally email and go, hey, can I see your rates? Or, I've heard good things about you. And they'll be like, yes, please sign up, send us some things.
Yeah. Can I see your product? Only if you pay for access, which is also, really the only leverage that they have is the access to the product, because if I don't, that's just, they don't, Zillow pays for it. It's all fucking money. So if I don't have an association membership, and so I'm not on the MLS, I could use something like Zillow. The problem that shows up for me as an agent, or the disadvantage that will start to bubble up, is my agility in getting clients into homes and my ability to put the home, if I'm listing your property and I'm not an association MLS agent, my ability to get your property in front of all the people. I could go put it on Zillow, each individual one, or I could put it in the MLS and feed it out to Zillow and realtor.com and all the agents and all the clients of agents who are set up on streams.
Okay.
No,
I honestly think that for being bribed the way realtors are, not real estate agents, because they've decided not to, but is how much you guys pay for access to your MLS. I would think it would be more streamlined, universal, cover the entire fucking state, because your license allows you to work in the entire state, and
let's talk about that.
So
exclusionary.
Yes, it's so awful.
We got to take a little bit of a history lesson, because it's very easy to sit where we sit and look at what we have and say, well, this was built wrong, and see what's wrong with it. But if you look at how it arrived, it makes sense that it grew out of all of this hyperlocal stuff. Like there used to not be the technology to see the whole state. I could literally cover as far as I could get, right? So the technology wasn't there.
And find the books, the listings, right? The paper.
And by the time you got the paper, some of those houses had been sold, and agents would put clients in their car and go drive around, and you had to call homeowners and you'd have to go pick up keys. Like, I didn't practice during this time, but it's the way that it was. So the MLSs have gotten together and started something called the Great Lakes Data Share. So from a protectionist mindset, if you have the Jackson MLS and the Real Comp MLS and the Greater Lansing area MLS, and you've got one in Kalamazoo that's different and starts in your area, and you think of each of those as like, I don't know, like circles on a map, right? Covers a certain area. Yeah. They all got together and said, well, we'll share information, but nobody's willing to agree on the format of input. So they have to basically spreadsheet path different terms to each other. Does that make sense? Like if my address formatting is 3120 and then another box east and then another box Coon Lake and then another box road, say that's my spreadsheet, but yours says 3120 East Coon Lake Road. We got to figure out a way that those two formatted cell arrangements can talk to each other.
So this is jump into the same thing.
Yes. So, and I'm getting like all tangled up. So you times that by however different however many different MLSs there are in the state. And there are some rogue ones. There are some like real off the beaten path ones. Advantages and disadvantages can be discussed on another episode, but they all did try to talk to each other. And some of the renderings were a little fucky and you couldn't see documents. But if you wanted to see a house in DeWitt, I could totally show it to you, but I can't show you the documents. It would take me a little longer to get them. Lansing, don't quote me on this, but I'm 95% sure that Lansing was like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And they just pulled the plug on it for whatever reason. I don't know if their agents got threatened by a lot of outside agents coming in and selling their properties, or maybe they were tracking some metrics about like less local broker agents were selling. I don't know. But they were like, we're not playing.
Follow the money.
We're not playing in that sandbox anymore. So now we're blind to those. Yeah.
So Zillow has obviously figured out how to read an MLS and make it pretty on the front end for people.
Yep. But they made a separate entity.
MLSs.
That's so there you're getting to the meat of the problem, or a portion of the problem. And I'm not throwing Real Comp or Lansing Association or whatever their MLS is under the bus. I'm saying like Real Comp says, we're going to keep doing it our way. So you send us your information and we'll format it to fit our way. And Lansing is saying, you send us your information too, and we'll format it to fit our way. What Zillow did is said, we're going to make a machine that can take all your bullshit and translate it into a new language. Right? And that's the answer.
Yes. Or for the local associations to be like, hey, we really should figure this out. Like realtor.com, like that's really where you guys should be. Oh, I won't even go into that, but that's what you're paying. That's what you're being extorted to be. That's the true mafia, the realtor designation, and
they sold that.
MLS.
I don't think they own it anymore. I think they made it and sold it.
Awesome. That makes sense because
I know.
realtors trademarked.
I know.
Why the hell would they sell their trademark? Like, what are you paying your association for? I mean that in the nicest way.
Okay, realtor.com is owned by Move. Real estate listing company based in Santa Clara, California. They operate the Move network of real estate websites, the largest of which is realtor.com. So yes, they got sold. And all I can think is, like, I imagine that the entities like NAR and all the associations are just run by people that maybe are 20 years out of touch. That's why it moves so slow. Like, maybe they fought so hard to get the dream that they just got done building in place that they can't let go of it, because what has to happen now is too different from what they just finished building. I don't know. I'm getting all like fucking philosophical about it. But it's not an agile industry.
In a new one, right? So if we go back to the mafia, which was the topic, you've got
bunch
the
of old white guys,
and this is how it does it. Are we talking about appraisers here? But you have the original, right? The old timers who built it out, and this is how you do it, and this is just how it's always been done. And the next generation just tweaks it a little, and the young ones are like, "Oh my God,
this sucks.
You guys need to die so that we can actually make it work for everybody." Because if you're doing it for real.
And try not to get too tangled up into she just said that, because it's reality.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't.
No, somebody out there is going to be like, I can't believe she just said that. You guys need to die. What a heartless cunt. Well,
you listened
you're going to die.
Our other 70 episodes? We're all going to die. It's literally
part of the deal.
The only thing. But could we all agree that you should really just tell people how people died in obits?
Yes. Okay. So this is worth sharing. Totally off topic. We've got this background conversation. When I die, if Cassandra's still alive, she's going to tell everybody how I fucking died. One of the most annoying things in the world is finding out someone you know or knew or love or loved died, and nobody fucking tells you how.
Yeah.
Can we just
secret. And it's weird to ask, does anybody know what happened? Turns into this weird, like, quiety conversation instead of being like, well, what the fuck happened?
She choked on a bologna and ranch dressing sandwich on fucking white bread. Gross. Okay. Or, I don't know. Yeah. Drowned in the bathtub, tripped and hit her head on the toilet, OD'd. Well, hopefully it's some story worth telling, but.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the same for her. And we should totally normalize it.
I'm with you. Anyway, that was not off topic at all.
No, we're talking about the mafia.
Yeah, that's
what does the mafia do? Fucking kills people.
Yeah, well, it controls the things.
Okay, so I just had an interesting, folding over of thoughts on top of each other. So we call this the mafia and all of these pay-to-play elements, but there's still so much riffraff due to the low barrier of entry. Is that where all the money really is in real estate? Just the high turnover of the bucks of the people with one or two deals, the loan officers who are paying for their bond and their state fees. I don't know. Just a thought.
That I don't know. I don't know if it's better to have more people because you soak their money and you're able to use it for something else, which ultimately helps the professionals. Perhaps that's why people recruit. That's why people try to recruit loan originators. They go, come originate. I'm literally going to take, 10% of your volume. I don't give a shit if you close one deal a month or 20 because I'm getting paid.
A lot of brokerages operate this way.
Of what no
risk, high reward.
What you're making. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like for you guys aren't employees.
Mm-mm. No, I could hold licenses for 1,000 people and not give a fuck who performs how much.
Right. Provide them
and
training,
probably still be
just
profitable.
Passively holding
a license.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we talked about me getting my license and just hanging it, finding somewhere to just hang it. That I could totally sell real estate, sell my own house and get paid on it.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I should.
Yeah, that's another conflict of interest conversation, potentially, not for your own house, but there are people that hold dual license, and I think it would be a conflict of interest to process a mortgage on a house that I'm helping you buy. I don't know.
Oh, well, just so you know, for conflict of interest, anytime I do a loan for somebody with the same last name as me, I have to explain who they are to me.
Make sure you're not making money on the deal. Shell buyers or straw buyers, they're called, right?
Yeah, straw buyers, things like that. But they do have flags. It's not really an interested party to the transaction, but they do have to float through all that stuff. The same thing if you're selling your house and you're renting it out to a family member. You do not get to count that rent. You just don't, unless the family member has a totally different last name and nobody knows.
Yeah.
But same thing if you're employed by family, you actually have to get the business tax returns for the company to show ownership interest.
This is paperwork episode stuff. They're all
I'm just
interconnected, man. No, I didn't know that.
The mafia tries to make sure who.
Well, and if we're really using a mafia analogy, like anybody who opens a business still has to pay. You still got to pay the.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me a mafia name.
No. I was going to say.
Jimmy.
Well, I was going to say everything's the mafia, right? If we didn't work in this industry, we would be trading something off regardless, right? Whether it be cash or whether it be our mental health, right? Our time, our energy. Time is money. There's a cost to all the things.
Always a trade-off. 100%.
So honestly, I've, $1,000 in license fees and education costs and all that is well worth it. But for you, if you're just starting in the industry, just know that anybody who's serious about it is paying other stuff and not doing it for fun. They're being forced to play within the sandbox.
Yes. And the more business you do, the more expensive some of these things become.
Absolutely.
Back to your bond.
Yeah, I have to increase my bond. Yay! It's like falling off the fiscal cliff, right? when you're getting like Medicare or Medicaid or something, or food stamps, and they go, you got to raise, pay for your own health care and buy your own groceries. And you're like, I ain't flat broke. This extra $300 a year is not
enough to cover the $600 a month in benefits. Yeah,
exactly.
That's systems. Someday I'll come on here and talk about Anna and that system.
We could. It'll be our highest rated show ever.
I feel
we should do a show. So Anna, but you can talk about real estate in relation to that.
Real estate special needs.
Yeah, trust, things like that. Setting
real estate
that
for
kind
your
of
special. I can't use the word special needs. What would I say for your
differently abled? I don't know. What's the
it's
call
a fucking
world?
minefield. Yeah, for your
you figure it out.
Real estate for your high functioning autistic daughter. I'll just get real specific and talk about my own situation, and then you do what you got to. I'd be happy to, because honestly, I'm not sure if I'm not even sure if I'm doing it right, but I wish somebody, like I had to invent every fucking step because nobody talks about it. It's so messy.
Okay.
I'll probably cry. Let's do it.
Okay. Me too. Sweet. I'll bring Kleenex to that episode. We'll bring in the new year.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, just know that you will have to pay the piper, and
it's worth it if you love the job.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Until next year.
These are going to come out next year, just so you know.
Until we meet again. Damn it.
Yes. Until next time. We'll see you guys. Thank you for hanging with us. Bye.
Bye.
The info given is current as of this recording, but remember, the market changes and real estate is hyper local.